abstract argument. Again, doing the comparison, contrasting, you see a dominant use of inductive argument in science, a dominant use of deductive argument in mathematics because of the deductive nature, and you see a dominant use of abstract arguments in philosophy because philosophers like to answer the question of why. Why? Why is the world the way it is? An abstract argument answers that question. So you're about to create an argument. But in this case, the premises guarantees the a priori truth of the conclusion. What does that mean? If the premises are true, you're going backwards in time. A priori means prior to experience. So that is, in order for what's in front of you to really be there, something had to occur. If I walk up to the river and I see the water flowing, when I walk up there, before I came there, the water was already flowing. It couldn't have just started flowing when I walked there. To think like that is to think using a priori reasoning, or like we call abstract reasoning. Okay, you're going backwards. Let me illustrate this. So you have premises of this type. They are exact things. They are facts, existences, or state of affairs. A state of affair is a fancy word for event. We call these truths of being. They are just true, things that are what they are. They're not sequencing in a particular way. We're not looking at a complex system, like the complexity and going for the detail as a deductive conclusion. No, they are real. They exist. Facts exist. Okay. I guess I could give some simple examples of fact. If you walk out, like I'm with my backdrop here, I walk out and I'm standing by the riverbank. And when I get there, I see a purse on the ground. All right, fact, there's a purse on the ground. On the bank there, right? So what can I conclude? There had to have been someone, most likely a woman, that was there before me. Because purses don't just appear in nature. They just appear out of nowhere. The fact that that purse is there leads me to reason backwards, to go back and say, hey, it is necessary. It's an a priori truth. It's a necessary presupposition that someone was there before me. Were they there early in the day? Were they there yesterday? I do not know. But I know for certain someone is there before I came there. I know that with necessity. And this is the way of these type of arguments, okay? So you're given something that truth of being is like truth of reality, that which is real, all right? You're given something that is real. So the person is there, you go back and you can say that happened before you got there, right? Now, we can also say existences, right? The person exists, but we can say the person made of atoms, as we've spoken already in this course, right? Atoms exist, but I cannot experience them. But in order for me to talk about the bag directly is physical and it exists, there got to be some kind of smaller component there. When did those smaller components arrange themselves into the bag? I do not know. But those smaller components there, and we call them atoms. So for these things to exist, if the atom did not exist, the bag would not exist. You know what I mean? So in a certain sense, I can talk about the existence of things I cannot see because of the phenomena that occurs on my experiential level. Right? Same thing with state of affair. That's an event. An airplane nosedives. It is caught on camera. That's a state of affair. When you try to say what happened, you begin an investigation. You must engage in an a priori analysis, abstract reasoning. You're going to go backwards. It was full of fuel. The pilot was trained. The co-pilot was trained. Was it an act of terror, mechanical error? Was it a weather scenario? Was certain bad? Did the bird strike the engine in a certain way the pilots could not respond quick enough to save it? So you have to go backwards very, very slowly when you look at the disaster on the ground with the crash airplane and the people's bodies all over the place. You have to go reason backward to figure out what exactly happened. All right. So in other words, a priori reasoning, try to explain why those things are the way they are. That's why they become philosophical. Why are these things true? Okay. Other type of arguments are a little different. Okay. Deductive argument is looking at the details of those facts. Inductive argument are using those facts and other truths only if they're sequenced in a particular way. They're looking for patterns between them. Okay. They're looking for patterns between them and making conclusions based on those patterns. This is a simple example. Notice it's the observation. There's a tree growing in that backyard, an apple tree. We must presuppose, okay, that is before that tree was even planted there, okay, well, we must presuppose this, since that thing is growing there, that the conditions, the weather condition, the soil condition must be right for that to happen. It may seem so obvious, but you're doing something that is not obvious at all. Only because you have prior knowledge of how plants grow can you make that claim. That is a priori reasoning. Okay, you are engaging in abstract reasoning. If you have no knowledge of how plants grow and things like that in this nature because you're young, okay, then you can't make that kind of conclusion. All you see is the tree growing there. So abstract arguments like a reverse argument where you're going backwards in time. It's a reverse deductive argument, you could say. All right, here's another example. Coming soon. Let me give you an example, my favorite example, all right? It's coming right now. Crime scene investigation. Crime scene investigation, Sherlock Holmes, right? When the investigator gets to the crime scene, let's say there's a murder scene, and he walks in the place, there's blood on this wall, some smears over there by the kitchen, things like that. The body's laying in the living room next to the sofa. The investigator must very carefully look at the facts as they are right now and understand the laws of nature, mechanics, okay, using those forensic scientists to help support his analysis, move backwards very, very carefully. He has engaged in abstract reasoning very, very carefully so that he can figure out what was the state of affair before this event took place. Okay, where was the man standing? Where was the perpetrator of the crime? Was there a break-in? By going backwards very carefully, he gets a good picture of how it occurred and possibly who may have conducted the crime. Crime scene investigation is abstract reasoning. Why is the body laying there? Why do you have blood in the kitchen? You have none in the bedroom. Why? So if you want an example, think of crime scene investigation. Those are good examples. Now, in all human endeavors, we engage in inductive argument, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, and abstract reasoning. But if you're looking at trying to explain something like that, you begin first with the abstract reasoning to get you set up, and then use the other form of reasoning along the way as well, okay? Now, with this example, I'm pushing you into the domain of philosophy somewhat. I hope you're staying with me, okay? So don't get scared, all right? Pick up your cell phone and look at it. It exists. What I'm saying is that that thing that exists, if you reason backwards, before that thing was manufactured, before it was in your hand there, it had to be possible to design it. It had to be possible to put the material together. If it was impossible to gather the material, impossible to design it, you would not have that phone in your hand, okay? But how far back does it go? How far back does it go, okay? Well, if that's the case, it goes back a long way. That means if you go back to the time of the Big Bang, it had been logically possible to create those parts. It had been logically possible to design that phone. So in terms of this abstract entity, this abstract phone, I can say it exists. It was possible since back then as logical possibility, okay? As a logical possibility. And that becomes scary because you're wondering, Wasn't the phone invented by somebody, this particular model, especially with the current engineer? Yes, but the engineers could not have made that which was logically impossible. So it presents a kind of odd view of reality now. If this was possible, then it's, it's all kind of question of reality. I'm going to stop right there and let you just mull over this idea. But this is the nature of logic right now. We're getting into, the cusp of doing some philosophy without going too far. I don't want to get carried away, okay? So what I want you to be aware is our abstract arguments. I'm not going to ask you to evaluate them, but just be aware of them, be able to distinguish them from deductive and inductive arguments.